Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. I hope you are having a fabulous week. I hope your tanks are doing amazing. And I hope that you come and join us and ask some questions because it's open chat tonight. We had a fabulous guest last week. I'm going to do some follow up with Tia and have some more information for you guys about last week's episode. Go watch that if you didn't catch it because it was really interesting about macros and dwarf seahorses. And well, you'll just have to go watch it. But we will be doing some follow up with Tia, so stay tuned for that. Hey, Cruz, long time no see. I got to catch up with you. I think I saw you texted me. I got to read it. Sorry. But, anyways, sorry that we're late. We were discussing having a very deep discussion about something that we'll talk about in a minute because I don't want to get distracted and start rambling. My updates. Number one, I'm sipping on Pinot Noir. Let me know in the comment section what you're sipping on. I went to my go-to favorite because I went through a phase where I liked the reds and the Merlots and stuff. Now it's too dry for me. I don't know what it is, but it's too dry for me. But Pinot Noir, this bread and butter is very inexpensive, literally like 12 bucks. So good. I can drink it like I would a Chardonnay or even a rose or a Moscato. I mean, it's not sweet like Moscato and stuff, but it's like not that rough on your tongue. You got to have cheese in your mouth to drink it kind of red. Okay, enough about wine. I'm trying to push through because we got lots to chat about. And it is open chat tonight, guys. So any Seahorse questions, anything you want us to discuss, that's what the comment section is for. If you've already been a guest and you have a link, anybody like Tyann from Tank Talk with Tyann or Robert King from Robert King Char Chamber, any of you guys that have that link, Vincent, I'm looking at you, Chris Carey, any of you guys feel free to jump in the actual video if you want on any night that's open chat. As long as we don't have a guest, you're welcome to join and we'd love to hear how you're doing. I got to get Chris Carey back here. He's been doing some interesting things, and I don't want to tell his secrets, but we got to catch up with Chris Carey for sure. Remind me, guys, we got to do a new episode. All right. Only other things I have to announce are, let's see. I can't believe how big my seahorses are getting. I'm going to show you guys a video in a minute. It's not great. You know, my tank sucks, but the seahorses are freaking huge. I mean, I'm going to show you why you need height doesn't matter as much in a tank as it used to be, but, or, you know, as we used to think it mattered, but volume matters because these guys are huge and they're stumbling over each other in this 40-gallon all-in-one. I'll show you guys in a little bit. Also, I just completed and updated how to set up a seahorse tank for the larger species that is literally only like 7 minutes long. Instead of my hour-long version where I ramble on and everybody's like, I just want to know how to set it up, not, everything you think about everything. I have a video coming out. I'm starting to get back into videos, so please pay attention to that. Share it if you think it's good, and let me know comment wise, if it's okay, because I'm trying to condense the information, get everything important out, but do smaller videos. Because you guys, I searched on YouTube. I did a search, for how to set up a seahorse tank, and my long ass video, but my video that used to be like number 1 is now like number 6. And oh, that's no good. So I had to make a shorter one. All right. Final announcement, and then we'll get it back into all these little things that I've said. And again, any questions, comments, or things you want us to chat about, I could ramble on all night. But I did want to say the other thing I've been working on really hard in my spare time, because I'm still doing the 5 o'clock in the morning training at real life work. Oh God, it's killing you guys. But I'm almost done. I only have like 1 to 2 weeks left because I'm, I caught on quick. All right. All right. Anyways, I'm almost done with that. So I'll be back on the game, but I have been working on the website. I have been working on like the t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. And this is an older one, but I just wanted to show you these t-shirts exist. I'm wearing one now. I don't know if I can show you well. This is the Who's Your Mama t-shirt, right? It's got the male rolling his eyes with the little babies all around him and the sexy female being like, yeah, daddy. And it says, Who's Your Mama? So these cool shirts will be available very soon. So stay tuned and, make sure you share when they are. And Holly, you're wearing a Seahorse shirt too, right?
I am, yeah. Our weather's finally getting hot. So this is actually like a little tunic, almost like a super short dress. It's like a
Mhm,
tunic. And I found it, I want to say I've had it like a year or two now, maybe 2 years now. I hardly ever get to wear it because it's usually cold here,
mhm.
but I'm finally wearing it. It came from Etsy, I think. I have like three little seahorse dresses that I found on Etsy just that people made, and themselves. So,
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, and that's so cool. And I was gonna say, that's what I want, you guys. Is I don't just want to like, okay, this was my idea, this is my shirt, whatever. I've already told you guys I'm going to make sure you're able to put your literal seahorse, if you have a good enough image picture, onto a t-shirt of your own. But I want design ideas. Like these are fascinating to me. I love the idea of a tunic, and
mhm,
that is a really great design. So anybody who is into designs, has an idea for a design, might be a designer or likes to draw, any ideas for shirts, man, let me know. I'll share the profits if we make money. And bottom line is, I want to put out good product. So get with me if you have ideas, because that's really cool, Holly. I really like it.
I want one that's got a pair of combs dancing together.
You got it. I'm making it. I'll make it for you. And I can do samples and stuff. So, but anyways, back let's get down to the nitty-gritty. My friends Ray, Cheryl, and Holly are obviously already with me in the video if you're just listening instead of watching. And if you watch later, don't forget I do check comments. So if you watch and you're like, wait, I didn't understand what they were talking about, type a question in the comment section. I will see it and we'll discuss it next week, or I'll answer you in the comment section. But they are very frustrated with me because, as I said, we were almost on time today. But then we got to talking, and one thing leads to another. And the before and after party can last longer than the live stream. And you guys know we usually go 2 hours. So just to tell you, Wine Wednesday is a whole deal. But I apologize that we were late again. All right, guys, what do we want to dive? Hey, Coco Works, see you there? And thank you. Yes, please, thumbs up, like it. If you're not a member already, we're still working on what to do with it, but the options right now already allow you to use the cool emojis if you're a YouTube channel member. And if you jump on over to the Facebook group, we've made a special chat for YouTube members only, where you can like hit me and Cheryl and Ray and Dan and people like that that might not even be Chris, Carey, Vincent. All those people are in this chat where you can hit us up instantly if you need an answer and not wait on a Facebook post to be, processed or whatever. We also have the Facebook group, which the chat is in, obviously, so you have to be a member of the group. And I'm rambling, I know. But bottom line is we've got some things going on. So if you're not already a member, become one, please, and jump in our Facebook group, because it took some time to get it going because of the fact that I've been doing this training at work and I haven't had time to like do anything with it, but it's almost about to get started. So we're going to be tumbling into some cool stuff. Anyways, all right, I'm done rambling. What's first on the agenda? What should we discuss first? Holly, do you want to take the wheel or?
um, sure.
Okay.
Yes. So, since last chat, well, this happened actually, first of all, backing up. So, we had a guest last week, so I didn't bring it up, but I finally lost Scrappy Doo not long before that. Remember, he had a long illness. I treated him for a lot of different stuff and just nothing worked. So, I finally let him pass on his own. So, that finally happened. And then today I had a surprise loss in my other tank, the tiki tank. I lost a female very suddenly to something. And my we what we were discussing behind the scenes was the possibility that I had high organics, an issue in the tank, because I found a bunch of crap in my sump a few weeks back and had to, clean that out. And so they'd been living with that for a long time. So my assumption is that it caused issues. And I don't know, if I'm going to see any more losses because of that. I don't actually know for sure if that's why I lost her, because
Right.
she didn't show, like we discussed, she did not show any signs that she was building a bacterial infection or had parasites or any of the other things. So I really can't say for sure. I don't have a scientist here to tell me,
Right.
but so anyway, so I lost her today.
Well,
And
first, I want to say really quick, cheers to you. As I said when you messaged me, I've been there. I've had it where all of a sudden everything's going wrong in the tank. You're losing seahorses and you don't know why, and it's so frustrating. And you're searching for answers. And I really appreciate, Holly, that you're sharing this, because when it happens, we go on Facebook, we see all these beautiful tanks and awesome seahorses. And then when something goes wrong in your tank, you're like, what am I doing wrong? And sometimes you just don't know, or maybe you're not even doing anything wrong. Right. So cheers to you. I'm so sorry this is happening. It's happened to me. I'm happy that you're sharing, because I don't think people do enough. When something goes wrong, we don't share. So anyway, so you think it might be the gunk, and I didn't mean to cut you off. Did I cut you off? I feel like I
no, not at all.
So first question, and this I'm shooting this at Cheryl and Ray, and we're going to kind of jump around on this. But first question is, when you figure out that something's going on in your tank, like say you clean, like in Holly's case, she cleans out her bio balls and she finds literal gunked up food and literal crap, right? Okay, let's be real. It's seahorse crap and just detritus and stuff in the sump. And she does a massive cleaning. So my question is, we're wondering if could that buildup of organics and buildup of gunk, literal gunk, have caused the seahorses to like eventually get sick? So they're getting sick now, but it's because of what happened months ago. Or could the massive cleaning have affected the tank? Meaning, I always, like, I'm not a scientist either, and it always bugs me. For instance, I know I'm kind of tangenting and rambling, sorry guys, but for instance, I brought up a couple weeks ago that every time I do a massive cleaning on my 40-gallon all-in-one, and there's algae on the rocks, and I darn well know that when I scrub those rocks outside of the tank in a bucket, but I know that when I scrub those rocks, I'm messing with the surface area. I'm messing with the bacteria. There's spores from the algae, whatever, all this stuff I can't really see. And when I put these pretty new rocks back in the tank looks glorious right after the water change. The next day it's cloudy every single time because I've messed stuff up. So I guess messed stuff up, excuse me. So I guess I'm just kind of wondering, is it possible that maybe there could be trouble because you do a massive cleaning of your sump? What are your thoughts, guys?
It could
Well,
be because
go ahead.
I've seen that kind of stuff happen with other people where they literally pull out all the rocks and scrub them all and the whole 9 yards. But when you're doing that and you're removing all this, you're also removing part of your biofilter. And that is one place that you can get yourself in trouble. That's why I prefer to do smaller, couple time a week tank cleaning, and I'm very careful when I have extra equipment, extra rock, and everything that I keep cycled just for that reason, so I can pull something out and
Yep.
replace it.
Well, and
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm not changing my water parameters drastically.
So I want to be clear, and one other side note is my daughters got their license. I'm totally left field here, but they got their licenses, and my car is gone, and my AirPods are in my car. So if you hear background noise, it's because the significant other's walking around getting ready for work. Sorry. Let me know if it gets too annoying. But I don't want to be too confusing here. In Holly's case, literally what she's dealing with is she had a sick seahorse. She started investigating. Nothing's wrong with the tank. So she's looking at the sump. She realizes there's all this gunk in the sump. Oh my gosh, it's nasty down there. So she does a massive cleaning, which is what you would want to do, right? And so I'm kind of wondering, she's not, I'm kind of wondering if because her thoughts are, okay, the gunk organics was building up over time, and the seahorse was getting sick over time and just
That's
was sick. Whereas
that's my thought. No parameters changed from me cleaning the stuff
well,
in
and
the sump.
that's why I don't want to be confusing, because Cheryl, I was talking about scrubbing the rocks in my tank, so I kind of threw
Yeah, nothing got
something out there.
scrubbed. Nothing.
Yeah,
The biofilter didn't change whatsoever, other than getting rid of the gunk.
right. But in my case, and I know, guys, if I'm getting too confusing, I'm sorry, but the scrubbing rocks was my deal. The massive cleaning of the sump was Holly's deal. Okay.
Although some of it may have been released into the
That,
tank from being stirred up from me cleaning. They might have bad stuff might have gone through the pump and into the tank, whereas it was sitting before.
interesting that Cruz is in the comment section. If you're still out there, Cruz, I'd love your thoughts, because Cruz is the person that like was my mentor on my reef tank and taught me everything I needed to know about microbubbling and algae and keeping a tank clean and cycling and products and he was my mentor. But yeah, so I kind of what I'm getting at is, in my case, in my tank, when I scrub the rocks, I'm even though they look good when I put them back in, I don't have any kind of ammonia spike. Nothing happens with the nitrogen cycle for a couple reasons. First of all, I have other means of biofilter, and so does Holly. Like in my case, I've got K1, I've got a RKC chamber, I've got all this other stuff, and I'm just scrubbing the surface of the rocks. So I've got other means of filtration that is handling the nitrogen cycle still, but I'm thinking more about like, when I scrub my rocks, the algae that I'm scrubbing off, even though I'm doing it in a bucket outside the tank, the spores are still there on the rock, right? And so you put it back in the tank, and those spores are pissed off, and they're trying to find new homes, and they kind of go crazy. And I'm just thinking that's what clouds up the tank. Again, separate situation. I'm just throwing my stuff in there like I always do. In Holly's case, it's just Seahorse got sick, found crap in the sump, cleaned the bio balls. She had other media filtration to handle the cleaning. No ammonia spike, no nitrogen problems, just 6 seahorses. And so I'm just
And
wondering,
both seahorses I lost after this. Nobody was sick.
right?
But
See,
there's two things. There was cleaning the sump, and there was
and
live food introduced a month or two before that.
we're about to dive into that. We're about to dive into that. Major thoughts about live foods. But Ray, you didn't get to speak. So do you think that when seahorses just start dropping and you don't really know why, probably organics, probably bacteria, is it more of a threat if there was a buildup over time? Or is it more of a threat of doing a massive cleaning and possibly releasing stuff into the water?
Well, just thinking about it while you ladies were talking, I don't have any real answers, but just the way my mind works, I start thinking that maybe there's a possibility that there wasn't a problem with it as long as that crap was sitting there and doing its slow decay
Right?
the way it was. But maybe something happens when you disturb it all there. Maybe all of a sudden now it starts the decay to happen a heck of a lot faster pace, and that increases the DO at a rapid pace also, rather than having everything taken care of over that slow uh, decay that was happening prior to that cleaning.
Exactly.
Now, with the cleaning, you've got less crap in there decaying, but still, it doesn't take too much if all of a sudden you get it rapidly decaying and your DO takes a sudden jump upwards. It's only something that's working in my mind that way. I don't have anything that I can point to say, well, this is something that does happen or not.
We're not scientists, folks. Disclaimer here. Nobody's saying we know anything for sure. We're just using our experiences to discuss what could happen. But yeah, Ray, I was kind of along that lines. And again, jumping over to my situation. Sorry, Holly, I always bump into my stuff. But I mean, that's what I always worry about, is when I get this cloudy tank after scrubbing rocks again outside the tank. It's when you say VO, Ray, what do you mean? Because I'm thinking oxygen, but what are you thinking?
I'm thinking the dissolved organic levels.
Okay.
We can't say 100% for sure that dissolved organics are the culprit.
Right.
What we do know from many years now is if the dissolved organic level increases, in other words, we can't test for it. So if we're not doing sufficient husbandry to keep that from rising, then gradually over time it gets up to a level and then we have problems. And that's something we do know for a fact. Now, it may not be the DO, it may be something that uh,
Right.
is related to that high DO level. But in any case, whatever it is, we know that DO is a problem, or it's an indicator
And
anyway if the
yeah.
DO is up there.
Yep.
And not being able to test for it makes it doubly hard. Now, when you get disturbing things there, and I don't know if it's possible, but I think I think it could be possible that when you remove a lot of that crap and you've disturbed a lot of the other, maybe oxygen is getting to it or something's getting to it now and making it decay at a faster rate. And if it decays at a faster rate, you're going to increase DO at a faster rate. Um, just like I say, just conjecture because I don't have any other actual answer. But I know for a fact that maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I never ever cleaned my sumps.
Right. And that's, you've got, there's two sides of this, this equation. A lot of people like, I don't know about in seahorse tanks, but a lot of people like deep sand beds and still go with that theory of how to, run a tank. And we're so typically sterile in seahorse tanks, more and more so these days. And sometimes I think we need to back up and go a little more to the middle. But we told Holly to do a massive cleaning on these biobells. Wells. So it's just something we should consider as we're giving advice in the future and as we're talking to people is find out, what else is in the tank. If you have this extremely sterile tank and you find out there's gunk in the sump, maybe it's not such a great idea to completely clean it. Go ahead, Ray.
It's my thought that there's a difference between what's in the sump and what's in the tank.
Okay.
I'm basically anal about keeping the tank itself clean.
Right.
But I think what's sitting in the tank there is likely going to decay at a faster rate than what's in the sump. The stuff that gets in the sump is compacted, and the sump builds up its own biofield or whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it handles things at a slower rate and a more complete. I don't know what the right words are, but the ecosystem in that sump is not the same as what's in the
I
tank.
agree.
And if you leave a tank get like that, because everything's so much more open and pieces are lying there wide open, they're going to decay faster than if they're packed into a bunch of other crap that's in the sump and stuff that's settled down over a long period of time. And I don't know. It's just
well, Scott said
something that I think.
Scott said, Ray, spot on, all to do with oxygen saturation. And to be clear, Scott was asking a few questions trying to help us out, Holly, and he said, did you add any new inverts or anything like that? There was nothing.
No. And so also another point too is this stuff, it wasn't just on the bio balls. It was mixed in all with them. But the way I discovered it was because they were building up around the pump to my chiller to the point where it was like probably an inch or two deep. And I'm like, what is this? Well, it's mysis. It's like decaying mysis is what it was. And so I freaked out. I'm like, well, all this, the water's moving through the system, so it's getting back in their tank with them. But in hindsight, with this discussion, maybe like you're saying, maybe if it's in the sump, it's not a problem
It's
really.
almost acting like a filter. Like, that's why
I
I like,
don't know.
I'm literally thinking like an algae scrubber. You keep this nasty, gunky, terrible looking, stinky algae in the sump in order to filter the water in the sump, right? And then it cleans the water and goes back up, but it gets gunked up, it gets nasty, it's gross, and you do have to harvest it. Like, so I think like in your case,
And
Holly,
at
when
the
you filled up,
same time, though, it was slowing down the flow
right.
through
You
my
weren't harvesting
sump
it because it was
because it was clogging they go through baffles, and it was starting to clog the baffles, where the sponge, it goes through like a sponge into the next thing. And when I pulled that sponge out, it was just caked with that stuff.
so first off, I would say if you're starting a new tank, and again, this is just, we learn from these experiences, right? If you're starting a new tank, maybe avoid bioballs, because I just think that that might have been part of
Mhm,
the issue. In
mhm,
Holly's case, she's been using them forever and everything
mhm.
was fine. So, you don't want to get rid of one of your main filtration methods, right? If you've already used them. But just in the future, if you're new, don't
Well,
plan.
and now I keep them in a bag
Right,
so that every few weeks I can pull them and rinse them in the bucket of, salt water to get the debris out. And when I pull them out and they're all in that bag, I can see what's in the sump.
right.
If there's a clump that needs to be, vacuumed out, then I can do it. And I've noticed on my other tank, that's been working really well because I'm able to see. And now and then I see like a little clump in there, and I just take the turkey baster or the siphon and just zip that little clump out now that I can see what's actually in the sump.
Absolutely. So I guess a couple of things I just want to nail in on is number one, no matter what you're doing for a seahorse tank, one key thing is have multiple methods of filtration, right? Just in case
Mhm.
something isn't working or something goes wrong or you have to massively clean something. Even in my all-in-one, no sump, guys, no sump. I've got the K1, the RKC chamber, the rock. I mean, I've got different methods, and then of course mechanical. I've got the skimmer, I've got the UV, and I've got the sock. So I've got all these different methods so that if one fails, I've got another. Cheryl made a great point too. If you're keeping multiple tanks, or you really care about your tank, it's a great idea to keep cycled media ready at the weight. Like in my case, since I use K1, I have a bucket of K1 that's constantly churning. I throw ammonia in every couple weeks. If I needed to use that K1 because some disaster happened in the tank, I would have to make sure it was up to par, meaning I would add up to 2 ppm of ammonia, test it 24 hours later. As long as there was no ammonia, that K1's ready to go. If not, I might have to feed it a minute, but I keep it there so that it's not like I have to cycle media all over again. Go ahead, Ray.
My thoughts after our discussion here this evening would be, first of all, um, the, what she should have done, what we should have recommended to her at the time, is to upgrade her husbandry in the main tank so you don't have this mass build up in the sump. Second to that, there should have been something else to catch this stuff before it could be a mass buildup there. First of all, there's too much in there, obviously, if it's not getting eaten up and that much is getting down there. But then, in order to rectify the problem, once you sort out your feeding program so you're feeding less and still have it sufficient, then in order to get this mass out, do little bits at a time, not do a wholesale cleaning of the sump maybe.
Okay, and Holly, before you even say anything, I wanna give you credit real quick, because number one, Andrea said no questions or answers here, but the fact that they were 3+ years old is a huge achievement in my opinion, and a testament to how amazing Holly is. And I want to say, Ray, in answer to what you're saying, first of all, you have to consider Holly has special needs seahorse, and one special needs seahorse, and picky seahorses. And of course, you and Cheryl are going to say half tough love. Don't feed them where they want to be fed. Don't feed them the way they want to be fed. But I'm with Holly, where I'm like, I'm going to make sure my seahorses are eating. That's number one. And she also had a sump set up correctly where the sock should have been catching that shit. Excuse me, that food.
Yeah, I don't know why not. Both tanks have that issue. Not only that, but the overflow boxes, because I have one tank that's plumbed, right? I have another tank that actually has hang on back boxes.
Mhm.
And that crap gets stuck inside the overflow boxes hanging on the tank. And I have to flush those now and then. And that's where that gunk kind of comes from. I have no clue how it gets to the other side of the sock. There's no leaks. There's no
Right.
other way. It's
and real quick
strange
question,
to me.
because you actually don't you turn everything off to feed, don't you?
Yes.
So Ray, I'm just talking.
And I vacuum out the stuff that I see before I
turns
turn
everything
stuff back
off to
on.
feed. She feeds the seahorses. If there's anything left, she sucks it up. I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, I know you don't have an answer, but I'm just like, I'm frustrated too, because I would be frustrated.
Now, I will say there is a difference I've noticed in the display tank. That one's the 55-gallon, and now there's only 2 seahorses in there. There's Dandy and Sadie. And since I lost the other 2 seahorses, it's way less messy because they don't scatter food everywhere like they were before. They eat calmly together from the dish and don't spill very much like what was going on before. They still spill some. Another thing is I'm using the cubes, remember, because we weren't able to get the flat packs.
Right.
And I'm finding now that I have less seahorses, the cubes are actually working better for me because I can cut a cube in half, and a cube cut in half is enough for the 2 seahorses and my goby in that tank, I found.
Right.
And they pretty much eat all of it now. The other tank in my 75-gallon, I've been broadcast feeding, which is different. So there's food like everywhere, and they pick through it, and then I try to clean up what's left, after they eat. So that one's harder to get all the stuff out, and there's more food.
Well, and Ray made the point that, and at Creative Cosmo, I'm getting ready to put up your comments because I love them. But Ray said microparticles pass through the socks and eventually will fuse together to form a mass.
I think that's what's
So
going
on. So is the point, and Cheryl, you can jump in if you want, but is the point that we're saying that she's feeding too much? Because I don't like that answer. Like, you don't want to not feed enough. And
it's hard.
Dog. We're going to talk dog in a minute too, but
it's hard on feeding. I would actually rather feed a little less and let them stay a little hungry than overfeed and have a bunch of stuff sitting in the tank or in my sumps. The other thing I do, which is probably a little different, is I run fairly high flow, and with power heads and stuff, I direct them so they're not blasting the seahorses. That tends to keep everything in motion, so I don't get the buildup of detritus.
Wait. Time out. I get what you're saying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you're making an excellent point about not letting food build up in the tank. But Holly's problem is somehow it's building up in the sump.
Yeah. And I think Creative Cosmo, I'm not sure. They said they were having the same problem.
Oh.
I don't know if they mean that problem or not, of stuff building up in the sump.
Yeah, I used bio balls for a period of time, and I grew to hate them because they were such a pain to keep the tanks clean. And they almost killed me too when I stepped on a bag of them and fell off the porch.
Okay, so sorry, guys. I missed like 5 million comments. I am so sorry. I don't see. I'm going to hide this comment so we can go through them one by one. But I did see where Creative Cosmos said, is she cleaning out the back and changing her sponge regularly? And go ahead, Holly. What did you see and what were you going to say? I'm sorry. And then I'll go back.
Oh, no, Creative Cosmo said they were having the same problem, and it was way back in the conversation, so I don't know which problem.
Well, I wonder if it's maybe losing seahorses. I hope not. And Scott, we're getting ready to talk live foods because we're wondering about that too. But in this case, I think the only thing until, there's no real answer. We can discuss it and discuss
Mhm.
it. But I think that maybe, Ray, are you indicating that she should feed less? Wait, is that the new baby?
Aw,
Well, it's not a baby. She's 6 years old.
What's her name again?
Jenna.
Jenna. You are so pretty. We like you, Jenna. We're gonna talk about Jenna in a minute. But I'm
sweetheart.
sorry, Jenna's like, leave me alone, dude. Sorry, Jenna. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Holly.
When they're mentioning a sponge, I don't use a sponge. I use filter socks. I have a sump. I don't have it's not a hang on back filtration. I'm just talking about the boxes that drain it into the sump.
Gotcha. And Zen Ginger said, can't you use a fluid media bed system or at a minimum just stir them up when maintaining a system, or is it not that simple? Yes, absolutely. It's that simple. And that's what I was saying is have number one, multiple means of filtration and maybe don't use bioballs. But in Holly's case, she'd been using them for years and they were working, right? And you don't stir up the bioballs. So I mean, it's a learning experience. Nothing she did wrong, but I mean, we're talking it through to try to see and help others.
Yeah, just how to manage the sump, the crap that's in there. If I should do something, not do something, or
Right.
I
And why is it getting
saw
down
well,
there?
when
Why
I
is
saw
it-
Vince was talking, you need to maintain the sump.
She
So
was.
what do you do? Yeah, what do people do to do they clean? How do you clean it out? And how involved do you get with cleaning it out? Like what exactly is your procedure?
And see, Ray, remember, said he never touched his sumps. So
Mhm.
there you go. I mean,
I don't know
right.
was the answer. And like we thought earlier, maybe it's not even that. Maybe something else.
Right. We're gonna talk
Maybe
live
it's
foods.
genetic. Maybe it's
I promise we're going to talk live foods,
other things.
but I want to make sure we dive into the sump as much as we can, just for anybody new who's like, well, okay, maybe avoid bioballs, maybe have multiple means of clean, but for cleaning the sump, your question, Creative Cosmos said, I scrub the sump lightly monthly and vacuum the back out. See, and that's the thing. It depends on your sump, right? Because my sump on my 65-gallon is no baffles anywhere. It's literally the water comes down into an algae scrubber, no sock. Hits the algae scrubber, and it was a specially designed scrubber for, anyways, goes through the algae scrubber. And actually, there is one baffle after the algae scrubber. Then there's a huge skimmer. Then there's a pump. That's it for my sump. So yes, I harvest the algae from the algae scrubber, and it's a two-sided deal, so I can do one week and one the next week. And if it gets really gunky, I might, completely clean it out and clean the bottom once every 6 months, maybe a year. But that's it. I mean, like Cheryl, do you clean your sumps? Because
Yes and no. I
okay,
clean my skimmer. Clean my K1 media reactor.
yep,
I change filter socks on a very frequent basis.
absolutely.
However, a lot of what I've done differently is started building my own sumps.
Yep.
And what I did is I now have them set up in such a way that I know exactly where I want anything. And one of the things I do is I use fairly wide spaces between the baffles. And then I have rubble rock in there, but I have a high enough flow running through there between the skimmer and the K1 media reactor. And I have an airline with the K1 and a pump going through. It literally flushes, so nothing really gets stuck in the rock. It doesn't get dirty.
Right. And I mean,
And then it goes into where I had the UV and the return pumps and stuff.
right. And I was going to say, so that's the point I was trying to make is it kind of depends on how your sump's set up, right? Depending on whether you need more flow in it or whatnot. And with bioballs, you don't want flow. The whole point to bioballs is not. And I don't want anybody to think, oh, well, Holly should have just taken out the bioballs because that's not technically true. Because I know people doing Seahorse tanks fabulously that are using miracle mud and refugiums in sumps. So how do you explain that? Right? That's a gunk. That's gunk.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they don't ever clean it. So I think where we messed up with Holly, honestly, I think it was our fault. I think because we encouraged her to do this massive cleaning on these bioballs, which is a still form of media filtration. And I think that screwed her up. But
Well,
that might
they
not
didn't get a massive cleaning, really. I just rinsed them off in used
well,
water and put them in a bag and put them back in. Now, what I'm finding interesting that I think people are saying
yep,
that they do, that I think what I need to do is once a month or 2 months, every 4 to 6 weeks, a couple people are saying they shop vac out the whole sump and put
mhm,
all new water in there. And I think that's probably what I need to do. See, I have this crap building up not just where the bio balls are, but in the first chamber where my skimmer is. And all that's in there is the sock, which I change every morning. I
right,
empty out the skimmer every morning, even though it doesn't really need emptying because it's huge. I wipe it out. I wipe it out with I have reusable, recyclable fake paper towel rags that I use, a fresh, clean one every morning. Wipe out the skimmer, give them a new sock. But that crap builds up in that chamber before it even gets to the bio balls.
right.
So
Okay. Well,
I'm
time out.
thinking maybe
So,
I need to clean out this up because I don't have other stuff going in there besides my artificial
So,
stuff.
so Ray, I already made your comment that microparticles will pass through and create buildup. And Holly, I would absolutely
Mhm,
agree with you. If I had a section like I've had a sump where it
mhm.
went in, the water came into the sock, and the space underneath it was just space underneath it, and then it went
Yeah.
over a baffle. And if
Mhm,
I saw gunk building up in there, oh
mhm,
yes, you need to shop vac that every time you
mhm,
see it. But
mhm.
Ray, this is a question I'm going to aim at you because Creative Cosmos, and we're all friendly here. We can have this discussion nicely. But he said, sorry guys, where do you think waste goes? Maintenance with a sump is a must. Otherwise, you will always miss some waste and it's sitting in the back. Ray, how did you never clean your sump?
Well, if you don't clean it,
You don't see it.
That's not the
then
answer.
maybe it's the type. My sumps are all like yours. They are basically a tank. Now, there's one 40-gallon sump that did have one baffle in it, but it's because I bought that used, and that's just the way it was. But all the rest of my sumps were just merely a tank where the the return pump was at one end, the flow down from the tank into the sump was at the other end. Uh, there's live rock all through it. That's my biofilter, and crap builds up in it, and I don't know. I probably had some of them were probably 5, 6 years and never cleaned out.
Well, real quick, Creative Cosmos, you said very good blog idea to add to your site, secrets to keeping seahorses. But you don't understand. That's why I can't get the site done. Is it's like a rabbit hole. And if you don't know what I mean, like we're having this conversation and we're talking about this and we're trying to stick to the topic and we're getting ready to jump into live foods and what can cause this. But I'm sitting here thinking I need to say the fact that multiple methods of filtration. And when you hear and see us talk about these sterile tanks, it's because we've got massive media in the sump, whatever it might be. And like there's all these things that, if you look on Facebook at a post of this tank with no rock and it's got chains and what's keeping the tank cycled? It doesn't make sense. There's this huge sump or stuff in the back. Anyways, I'm working hard. There's so much information. But go ahead, Ray.
It may also be that the microparticles in that, for me, weren't getting through the sock so much because I'm a believer in using the power heads with quick filters on
Yeah.
them. The quick filters filter out that micro crap that is expelled through the gills when they snick up their food. And then that means twice a week I have to clean out those quick filters to get that stuff out before it starts decaying. But there's still, I could see that there's crap still getting down in there. So it's not the be all and the end all, but maybe it's decreases it enough so that it just wasn't a problem. Or maybe my other theory is that as it builds up, the ecosystem is able to accommodate the thing at the rate of decay that's there. And let's face it, the decay that's there, what you see there today, is not going to be the same stuff that's there 6 months from now or a year from now. It'll be replaced as earlier stuff completes its decay and releasing its nutrients. So while you might think that it's just a continual buildup there and not being removed, it actually will, if the system is working properly, there is going to be decay where it's released into all nutrient. And if you have enough systems, whether it's just by doing major water changes all the time or having things like excessive skimming or other chemical treatments or something like that to take care of all this stuff, whatever. As long as you have something to handle that system, then I can't see there being a big problem in leaving this sump.
No, I hear you. And especially like in my reef tank, I had a refugium. I didn't clean that. I never cleaned the sump in my reef tank ever. Like ever. I had it for, oh my God, years and years and years. I can't even tell you how many. Not 10, but close. And because the refugium, I would never clean it. That doesn't even, I mean, clean it, but not like massive clean it and not vac it or anything. That wouldn't make any sense. So I think it depends on just your entire build and your entire setup. I think it really
I
does
do
depend.
use quick filters also that Ray mentioned. Use that
Right.
too.
And I think the only thing that I can think of in your case, Holly, is that maybe either, and I'm just shooting darts here because I don't know, and I've had the same problem. So, but maybe overfeeding, maybe possibly, and which is something we never say on the Seahorse channel because we're always like, you got to feed more, feed, right? But maybe overfeeding, and or maybe it's the fact that we've discussed endlessly that the food's been crap lately, right? Like Hikari has all these little bits, and as Ray said, these little particles can get through the sock. When I feed, I turn everything off anymore because there's so many pieces that the seahorses won't even eat because they're so tiny, and it's like, what the hell? And it's so hard to clean it up. Oh my God.
Well, yeah, because it
Trust me.
gets under stuff, and even when you have flow blowing stuff around, they'll get lodged under a decoration or something, and then like hours later, you look and like, how come there's stuff in the tank now? I just vacuumed the whole tank.
I would say that, check your food. You should be rinsing any food for seahorses. But if you notice when you dump it in that there's a lot of itty bitty particles or little broken off pieces, I don't know what to tell you to do about it because I'm still dealing with it myself, and it's frustrating. But maybe don't do as much of the broadcast feeding if you're having that issue with your food. And the other part is, as Ray mentioned, we talk all the time about the fact that seahorses eat differently than other fish. A fish can gobble up a food and whatever, they poo it out someday. The seahorse snicks a piece of food and particles literally instantly come out of there's a scientific word, Cheryl, the orifices or their gills. Dang it. It looks like a puff of smoke coming out of their gills. And
It's,
so
it's, it's
that's,
basically their pets.
so
What's
that's
even
when we
funnier is when you
say,
get the unguilded ones.
the what?
When you get a seahorse and they have two, but only one opens. I've seen that happen too.
Right. Well, my point was though that that's when we say that seahorses are messy. It's not really that they're literally messy. It's that their bodies work differently, so they eat and discharge more often, and they're literally spitting out particles the second that they eat. So it's
Yeah.
just you got to like keep up on this maintenance. And in Holly's case, we've covered a couple of different things that maybe we led her in the wrong direction, or maybe she was doing wrong. But I think there's another possibility as to why she's having problems with her seahorses. Holly, what were we discussing about what could possibly be the other possibility?
Oh, I fed them
Food.
live mysids a
Okay.
few months back. Um, Also, the possibility of genetics. I mean, these seahorses I raised myself, their father passed away young. Also, from bacterial infection. Um, I've got another seahorse not related that's going on 5 years old.
Right.
So it's which ones, and like the one I lost today, like, I mean, in bacterial infections, I usually see a sign of it way ahead. It's a long, slow demise. This
Yep.
was fairly
So,
sudden and no
Yeah.
so
signs of illness or parasites previous to the last day.
So I want to say I put up a random Facebook user question because I don't want to forget to cover it after we're done talking about this. Stay tuned. I promise we'll cover it. But what I wanted you to bring that up for, Holly, is that I've had the experience before where I have gone and instead of hatching my own Artemia and growing them out and all that mess, or ordering from a company that I know and trust, like Reef Nutrition or Herbs or US Mysids or whatever. I've just gone to my local store and they happen to have live Artemia adults, right? And I thought treat for the seahorses, right? So I bought some. I get them home. First of all, by the time I got them home, I noticed half of them were dead at the bottom of the bag. So I'm like, oh shit. And at that point, in that circumstance, I called Dan and he was like, they're probably old. If you're going to buy live foods from a fish store, you need to find out when they're delivered, and just find out more information about what you're getting. Because if they're delivered on Thursday and the store's maybe not taking care of them like they're supposed to be, and they're getting this buildup of gunk in this small tank, and they're not doing anything to clean them or enrich them or whatever, and then you buy them, you need to make sure you're enriching and cleaning them. And if they look like they're dying, like this Artemia was so bad, it was like they were off colored. Like they would have white tails. Some of them. I mean, they were just odd looking. And I sent Dan a video. I was like, should I just toss them? Because they're really looking rough. And he said, no, peroxide, clean them and rinse them and blah, 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 put them in new water, enrich them. And I did. And I'll be damned if after I fed those enriched Artemia that managed to live through the half of them dying, I didn't have problems with my seahorses. Could it be unrelated? Yes, of course, but could it be related? I just go ahead, Ray. You think they were just
Yeah,
exoskeletons? Go ahead.
I spent a lot of years culturing Artemia and growing them to adults and selling them through stores around here. And they have a limited lifespan, but in that span, they're going through about 15 molts to get to the adult stage. And a lot of people used to think that they had all these Artemia dying off on them when they were trying to get them older, when in fact it was all these exoskeletons. So you figure if you have 100 shrimp and if they've gone through 15 molts each, how's the number of molts compared to the number of Artemia?
Totally get what you're saying. Totally agree. But I'm talking about literally buying a bag of adult Artemia, driving 20 minutes home, and half of them are dead at the bottom
That's
of the bag.
because when they gathered them up for you, the water didn't become motionless. And then when you were driving home, there was less motion to the water and you had settlement.
Okay, maybe,
Yeah,
but I'm telling you, okay, but I'm telling you, it was odd that I had trouble with my seahorses. They got sick after feeding this Artemia, and I guess the question I'm just asking is, regardless, I believe you, right? You're probably right. I'm very likely wrong, but I just wondered, can things come in on live
yes.
foods? If you buy live foods from someone that you don't know, don't trust, but they're live foods and you're going to clean them yourself or whatever, can something still come in?
Well, first thing you need to do if you're buying food like that, let it settle out and with a light around so that the Artemia will go towards the light, siphon off all the stuff that gets accumulated there, and let the other crap settled out. Then do a peroxide treatment on it before you actually feed them to the seahorses. But in that way,
Can you do peroxide on mysids?
Yeah, I've used it on mysids. I haven't used it on mysis because I've never had live mysis, but I have had live mysids. I used to culture those and sell those as well. And I use peroxide on anything live. Um, and I don't recall. Maybe I've tried over the years at some point. Maybe I've tried using it on frozen mysis, but I don't recall. But live foods,
you always put it through
See, I think I should have done that with the mysids, and I didn't. And I think I got mixed up because I think once Dan said it's copepods, I think, that can't go through peroxide, maybe. Something that can't. See, I didn't clean them before I gave them to the seahorses. And they were wild. They were the ones from US mysids. So I think he gets them wild caught. He goes out and
Which
catches
is a great company, and I buy those mysids, and we're not putting down those mysids, but maybe use a peroxide treatment on any mysids, live mysids you get in, right? Is that what you're saying, Ray?
Sorry? Use
peroxide on any live feed. Okay. All right, and we'll have a peroxide treatment, article written up very soon, I promise. But if you have detailed questions now, feel free to ask them. But yeah, I just wonder if that's it because I've had trouble with foods too. If I didn't clean them well enough or just fed them or whatever. Cheryl, have you ever had that happen? Where you had live feeds cause a problem in the tank?
No.
That you grow, that you bought.
The people that I deal with, it's like my neighbor who lives about 7 miles from me has a fish store that he's had for over 30 years.
So you just know people.
I can get stuff from him. I mean, it's like, hey, and he goes, yeah, they're going to be here in about 30 minutes. I mean, we don't even have to say each other's names. We know each other's voices.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference.
Sure. But I mean, Holly, I think that we got the answer we were looking for, that, any live food besides copepods, maybe put them through a peroxide treatment. Because, I just wonder if that's
I'm thinking so. But I mean, like I said, that's just another possibility. I really don't know, and I'll never know.
It's frustrating as hell,
honestly,
when they can't tell you what's wrong. Bottom line. All right, guys, I'm going to switch gears. I still want to get to dogs if we can, but Facebook user says, my question I was trying to ask the other week was, what else should we have on hand for our seahorses in case they get sick or need a bacterial treatment of some sort? Sorry. We currently have formalin on hand and do that maybe once a week. Cheryl, what should they have on hand? I got to answer this. I'll be right back.
Okay, wait a minute. The thing is, with formalin, you really don't necessarily need to use it once a week unless you think you have a problem. And even then, once a week is probably not going to do the trick. My first question would be, what are you trying to treat with formalin?
Lost your voice, Cheryl.
I'm sorry. Oh, we're live. They're not.
Yeah, I wouldn't treat unless there's something wrong. But I'd say
Oh,
the other things to have on hand would be antibiotics, like Furan 2, which is it's
can't get it most of the time anymore. The
nitrofurantoamide or something is the actual chemical.
nitrofurazone.
Yes, yeah, that's a good one. I keep Sulfaplex and Canaplex, Metroplex. Those are brand names of different medications that are sold under other similar names.
Yeah, the thing is that what you're going to want to use is going to depend on what's wrong with this, what the Seahorse is showing. And this having antibiotics on hand can be helpful if it's a broad spectrum antibiotic, but it may not have the efficacy of a specialized antibiotic to a particular problem. This is why I'm kind of always cautious about giving out names and dosages and stuff.
Oh, I
Because
see there, though, Cheryl, what they're talking about. They're talking about raising fry. So, like when I'm
that's a whole
raising
different
fry,
ballgame.
I'll do formalin their first day, their
Day 1,
third
3, and 5.
day, and their fifth day. And then after that, I only use it if they're showing signs of scratching, like if they get itchy.
I'll be honest with you. Since I started using the round tubs and I build the nurseries myself, and they're all sumped, I have had a bottle of formalin sitting in my back room for over 3 years that has yet to be used.
Yes, but and for
Probably not
everybody else,
good anymore. That happened to
right,
mine.
and I would say for everybody else, you have to remember Cheryl's been doing this for like forever, and she has had a lot of experience, and she has everything set up properly. I'm telling you that Dan, Alyssa, the commercial breeders use formalin. Okay, they do. I mean, they still do, and so there's nothing wrong with using formalin on your fry. As Holly pointed out, I think it's a good.
And don't when you if you do use it, don't measure it like I do. Dunk.
No, don't do that. And I would say I liked Holly's method of, the
Yeah.
first, what did you say, the first 3 days?
Yeah,
And
day
then,
1, 3, and 5, I use it right off the bat because I discovered after a couple batches, mine always got the itchies. So I just
well,
started proactively days 1, 3, and 5. And then after that, Den said you could use it intermittently. Whenever you see them start scratching, give them a dose. But it doesn't have to be like a continual treatment.
right. So, okay, I want to give my 2 cents answer since I didn't hear what you guys all said, and I see you, Ray. Hang on. My 2 cents answer would be for a regular tank. I promise we have a list coming out, and there is no definite list, as Cheryl said. It's not good to give out, oh, you should have all this stuff because you don't need all this stuff, and it expires,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the basics, I would say, include a general antibiotic. Since they don't have Furon 2 anymore, I would say kanamycin is good. Triple sulfa is good. They said nitrofurazone's good.
That is
Some
Furan
folks,
too. It's the same thing. The thing is, it's only sold in bulk, and that's why
right.
hard.
So general antibiotic.
Well,
And
the thing is, some of this stuff is considered an environmental hazard too, so they charge you extra for shipping. So you have to keep
sure.
that in mind as well. But it's
let me just get through the list, okay, real quick. So for a general tank, general antibiotic, Furon 2 for sure. If you're doing these new Seahorses or you're worried like you have a new tank, maybe methylene blue for ammonia poisoning. I've got a complete video about that if you want to watch it. And then, maybe a bio bandage or something along those lines for sores like that. And then, of course, a catheter. Dan still has them. He will still send them to you if you want. When I say when they first said when Dan first said you need to have a catheter to me, I was thinking women, hospitals, catheter. What? No, it looks like a syringe, but no needle. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's it.
It's an IV syringe with a catheter is what
Yeah,
it is.
right.
The catheter
Right.
is the plastic
So
part.
it's a tiny thing in case your male gets pouch emphysema. These are all things that you can have. I'll have a list for you, I promise, very soon. And I think there's a list in Seahorse Sources group. I'll go check when I'm done. If there is, I will put it in the comment section. For Fry, again, as they discussed, we're talking a different story. For Fry, I would have something. I would have your what were we just? Formalin, thank you. I would also have fenbendazole for hydroids. If you're new to Fry and you don't have, and you plan on adding anything besides the Fry, or if you're doing dwarfs and you plan on adding anything besides the dwarfs, I would have something for hydroids because those suckers are nothing. Well, they're not good in a regular Seahorse tank, but in a Fry tank, they're killers. So I would have something ready for that. What else, guys? And Ray, I'll let you speak now. Go ahead.
Goggles. Because when the male gets mad and you're trying to do a pouch evac and he squirts you in the face, it gets old. I'm serious. I've had that happen more than once.
But you guys see, this is the rabbit hole. Like, I want to make a list, but like I said, there's this case and that case and this case. I'm trying to condense it all into like just easy to understand information. Please bear with me. It's very hard to put it all in one place. But Ray, what were you going to say?
You have to live.
Wait, let Ray talk. Let Ray talk.
Basically, I want to remind people that this is all fine and good for you people in the U.S. For people like me in Canada, for people in Australia, I believe, and many other countries, I can't even buy formalin legally, let alone any antibiotics or other medications. So that's the same true in Australia and so on. So people better get used to being able to set up a hospital tank in a hurry and treat with fresh salt water, aeration, lower temperatures, and do the best you can that way, because it's going to be next to impossible for you to get what you want to get. And in my opinion, it's only a matter of time before you people in the U.S. are going to be in the same boat.
No, I agree. And I would say, Ray, what I love about you and you always talk about is prevention. What is the phrase? Prevention is worth a pound of cure. Is that it?
Well, it's not my saying, that's somebody else's.
Well, but
it's applicable.
And my point is, he's right. Like, if you're noticing that you have buildup, you can go out and buy medications. You can go out and buy the latest expensive, new, cool filtration methods, whatever. I do K1 in a 1 liter bottle, and I do an RKC chamber, and I do rock, and whatever. But my point is, instead of going out and get all this stuff, if you can keep seahorses with nothing if you're willing to do the maintenance yourself, right? If you're willing to do these massive, I would always recommend a skimmer. I shouldn't say with nothing, but I mean, if you're willing to do more water changes, deeper water changes more often, you're gonna alleviate the problem also. So if you even start to see you're having problems, I would first suggest bigger water changes. And listen, I'm lazy. I don't like water changes. Ray jumps me all the time and says the reason your tank's doing this is because you're not doing big enough water changes. So I'm sharing the love and the advice, but I get it when you don't want to do it. Okay, but
I'm not complaining about just water changes. You just need a method to take care of the things that or the situation that's being created by your methods and the equipment that you have. Now, in my case, water changes is easy for me to do and was the preferable method because I hate spending money on equipment. And if I can't build it, then I don't buy it. And water changes. Salt water is cheap, especially when half of it's my homemade salt water. And now I'm losing my train of thought. But basically, I'm not saying you just have to do water changes. You can use any method as long as you take care of the problem.
Right. No. I agree. I just know that saying to say Holly, do more water changes. She's probably going to punch you in the face because when you're already doing so many things in water changes, it's like, do more.
I'm getting to a point where I can barely walk because of my knees. We were discussing earlier. I'm like, I can't do this.
No, that was the point I was trying to make. Is you got alternatives, but if you're able, then bigger water changes usually help.
Can I interrupt for a moment?
Go ahead.
Because the Zen Ginger just posted.
I'm trying to get through the comments, guys. I'm scrolling through.
Yeah,
go ahead.
That Seahorses probably wouldn't make it back to Texas, and I just wanted to let her know or him know that I'm actually in Texas.
And
I didn't even realize that until just now.
Well, because Gina's Reef says they got orange red-eye seahorses in at her work. So Ginger was probably wanting to get some, but doesn't think they'll make it back to Texas.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm here in Texas, and I can help source some help her find some that are true captive bred. Doesn't have to worry about trying to train them to eat frozen and that kind of stuff.
Please remember, though, if you buy colored ones and take them home, they may not stay colored in your particular tank.
True.
The only orange seahorses that I ever got that stayed orange were the specific species of Cuda that I got from Dan. And I mean, those suckers.
Was that when he had the Tanios? Was that when he? Did he have was that when he had the Tanios?
Yeah, that was the big one.
I don't know. I think so.
It was probably, he had the Tanios a long time ago because he got a Saudi's permit and shipped a bunch to Jamaica.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I'm trying to see if I have a picture on the ready, and I probably don't, but I'm looking real quick. But yeah, I mean, I would say it just depends on what you're trying to do, because like I would totally buy the red-eye from Gina's Reef. If you're a newcomer, and I love you, Gina, but if you're a newcomer and you're looking to start a seahorse tank and they're just barely eating brine, you're gonna be better off getting captive bred seahorses that are already eating frozen mysis, that are trained on it, raised on it. It's just easier, right? So it depends on what you're willing to do. Dan always talks about risk tolerance. There's no wrong answer here, right?
Yeah.
If you because I trust Gina's Reef, I would buy seahorses from them in a heartbeat, but I know what to do if they won't eat frozen mysis, right? So if a newcomer doesn't, I'm just trying to be totally transparent here.
Yeah.
Because if they're just now barely eating live brine, did she say, or frozen?
Frozen.
Frozen brine. But I mean, frozen brine, they need to be on mysis, right? They need to be on mysis. So whatever. I mean, I would buy them. I'll buy them. Can you send them to me, Gina? Because I'll take them for sure. But I was trying to find these pictures, and I cannot seem to find them. Of course, I got pictures.
The thing that a lot of people new to this make is they think it's going to be easy. Fill it up with water, add some salt, and put an airline in, and they're good to go. And they don't really fully comprehend how delicate some species are and how difficult they can be to keep, particularly if they're not captive bred.
Well, red-eye are pretty hardy.
Yeah, red-eye are very similar to erectus. I had a pair of red-eye years ago, and they're very pretty seahorses. The ones I had, they were like white with yellow and dark spots on them.
Hey, I had one that was ruby red. I named her Ruby.
Sweet.
And she had all the markings of an erectus, but she had the color of a bright red red-eye. She may have been a hybrid. I don't know, because this was before they were doing their research
they really talked about hybrids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I had captive bred red eye from Alyssa, and I had captive bred red eye from Dan. They looked completely different, completely. And yeah, it did earlier when I was saying about my yellow and orange seahorses. Did I say Cuda?
Mine were from Dan, and yeah, you did say Cuda.
Okay, good. Go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah,
Mine were one
ones
taught
I
from a
had
friend of
were from
mine.
Dan, and that was like 2008. I had those 2007, 2008. They were very pretty.
All right, I'm going to stop trying to search for these pictures while I'm live. I will tell you, I will post the Cuda that I had from Dan when we're done in the Facebook group, I promise, and just show you. And they never lost the color. Every other seahorse I've ever owned has changed color, period.
Mhm.
I don't care if it was like to a lighter or darker or completely different color, but they all change color. I would not buy seahorses for color. But those Cudas stayed. So you just never know.
Mhm.
But again, Gina, message me,
The
I'll buy them.
same seahorses in another tank may not have. It might be that those particular seahorses just found the conditions in that tank suitable for maintaining their color at that level.
Well, the thing is, too, if you don't know what you're looking at, it makes it very difficult to treat. And it's one of those things where you want to help people, but oftentimes you don't have enough information to be able to really help them the way you would like. And it's frustrating from our perspective because we want people to succeed. And sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Vincent said sometimes we do too much to our tanks and never allow our systems to mature to a point of being able to handle the bioload.
I
I
agree.
really like this
Mhm.
point, and I wish we would discuss this in detail further. Like, I mean, I'd like to get grabbed in here someday too, because we talk about all this real stuff, but then what do you guys think about Vincent's point?
Well,
Mhm.
you know you're in trouble when you've got 60 juvenile erectus in a 58-gallon tank with a 29-gallon sump.
And Ray, you said in the comments, especially sumps, right?
Mhm.
Well, if you don't let that mature, then what's the point of having the sump?
Yeah,
Mhm.
but
Well, and he said, I think all of our tanks are like a reef tank. That's why I like live rock and macroalgae in seahorse tanks. And there's so many ways to do different seahorse tanks. It's just when you're talking to a newcomer, I want them to succeed, like Cheryl said. And so I'm going to tell them, look, if you want them to live for 8 years, do it this way. If you want to have a beautiful tank, you can do it this way, right? It's different, I think. If you're trying to breed, that's different than if you just want a pair of seahorses, right? Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I'd say whatever your objective is, you have to work, do something to that level. And what I try to tell people that send me messages and want to know something, I advise them, first of all, there are people that do succeed doing things in a variety of ways, but if you want to be or have your chances of being the most successful, follow long-term keepers and go with what they
Yep.
agree with first until you get enough experience to decide you want to use that risk tolerance factor to spread out and do something different.
Mhm.
Yep. Expand. And yeah, no,
Mhm.
I agree. I agree. And Gina's Reef said she agrees. She has a handful of customers that do too much. Water's too clean and can't get rid of diatoms. And that's interesting. I always have trouble with diatoms. So maybe you're right, Gina.
I didn't.
Mhm.
And why do you think that is,
I don't
Ray?
know. Maybe it's my dirty sumps.
Yeah, I don't know. I never do either.
But when
I
you're
don't
doing
feel a
95%
lot of
water
allergy
changes,
issues.
Wait, finish
if you're
Ray.
doing
Ray, what were you saying?
95% water changes and don't have diatoms, I don't think you can blame it on the water being too clean.
Hmm. And Holly, what were you saying?
I was just saying I don't have a whole lot of algae problems since I got rid of the live rock. a long time ago and went to all artificial, I get like a film algae that's easily wiped off, and I get in my display tank, I still get the green hair algae a little bit and the coralline algae in certain spots of the tank where I couldn't completely get rid of it when I changed everything over. It's like it continues to grow. And I let it grow actually in those areas because I'm not concerned about those parts of the tank that are not really in my pictures. So I figure it's not hurting anything.
It's helping.
So
It's
I'll let it grow and then I'll just pull it out by hand every once in a while and then wipe it with a sponge. And it comes back gradually again, but it's not taking over the tank or causing issues.
well, and I will tell you guys, something's going on in my house. Do you see that? I need
Yeah,
you.
lights flickering. You have a storm coming in?
Well, I want to say, Ray, it's all your fault, or it's Canada's fault. Your damn fires. I woke up yesterday, and I'm not kidding. I'll post a picture on Facebook. It's nuts. It looks like New York City fog. My Indiana is covered in this smoky fog, and it's not just fog because I came home yesterday and I was sick.
Oh,
Do you
I
want
was
me
like,
to tell you about all the times it's come up this way from the U.S.?
yeah, I was going to say,
well,
sounds like Northern California most years. For once,
yeah.
we're not having that.
Well, I will just,
Hey, guys,
I will just,
we've been
hang
we've
on,
been
hang
we've
on.
been dying in 100+ degree heat for weeks now, and crossing my fingers, it's finally supposed to cool down into the low 90s next week.
No, please. I hope it does, Cheryl. And I would just say my significant other loves to scare me. I'm going to get back to the Seahorse thing in 1 second, guys. But if we die and we go away, it's not die. If the live stream dies, it's because of whatever's going on here. Sorry, we're not dead. But I would say my significant other loves to scare me. And he says that this is all they're releasing it somehow so that they can shut us all down again for climate change. And I'm like, shut up, because climate change does exist, and oh, shut up. But I will tell you, with all your Canadian fires, Ray, we've never had this happen here. This is the first time I've ever seen it, and I'm an old lady.
We've
And
got
all
all these
your
fires
fires,
because we haven't done climate change enough.
I mean, I agree with you totally, but I'm just saying it's scary. It's scary because it's making me sick. Seriously. And it look I'm gonna post a picture, you guys, because I took some because I was like, what the hell's going on? I mean, in Indiana, the weather changes constantly. It sucks. Don't come to Indiana.
I did see some weather warnings for Indiana last couple days. Are you guys having some
No.
stuff going on where you are? No?
I mean, at least not where I'm at. I shouldn't say that
Okay.
because lately, guys, I avoid the news. It's too scary, to be honest. I don't want to look at the news. I'd rather live in my little turtle shell and pretend everything's great. But with my seahorses. But I'm just saying, I couldn't believe it when I walked outside yesterday, and I just thought it was fog. And then yesterday night, when I got off work, I was like, oh, I got this cough. And and I'm a smoker, and I drink and stuff, but
Smoke.
I couldn't quit cough like this deep, like where you're just like, I don't even have to cough, but it's like I got to cough, and look, I'm making a fool. I am live, but you know what I'm saying? Like it was just weird, and then my stomach started hurting, and I was like, what the heck? And then I went to work, and they were like, oh yeah, it's all the Canadian fires
Yeah.
and all that smoke coming down here at us.
Mhm.
And Ray, you said, I can't figure out why the smell from the fires is like burning plastic and not a wood fire. What do you mean by that? Because Sean said that too, and I told him to shut up.
I go out the house and on the deck, and I smell the smoke around here. And when it first went out, I wasn't thinking about the fires, and I was just thinking, geez, I got some plastic burning around here, because very much like that. It's if you're working with a soldering iron and you're doing something with the solder and you get up against some plastic, you get the same smell. And I haven't figured out why it's like that. Why doesn't it smell like a campfire? I like the
Well, now
smell.
we're messing with my damn internet, you guys. I can hear everybody coming in and out. I'm sorry. But no, but I mean, what is the theory? I wouldn't let Sean tell me, but you can tell me, Ray. What's the crazy theory as to why it smells like plastic? Is it some
I have
big
no idea.
conspiracy? Okay. Well, if you
All I
know in the
know,
comments, let me know.
I would say, well, when we had our fires here, it was burning communities, so it was burning stuff.
I don't think that's it. I think
I
the way
haven't heard that about Canada, but I know in our fires, and we're like I said, we're fine for months. For the first time in years, like
we've got
normally I'm with you guys in the summer and I'm under evacuation warnings, and
right.
so for the first time I'm not. But I can
Well, I
tell you
probably
our
sound
fires
I probably sound like
have burned through communities, and when that happens, you don't know what's burning. It's all kinds of chemicals.
yeah, but I haven't heard. I hear you, Holly, and I feel so terrible for you. And I probably sound like a spoiled little child up here. Oh my gosh, I've got some smoke in here. When you guys deal with it every damn year, I'm sorry, but I'm just not used to it. And Ray's right; it smells like plastic,
But
and it's
it's
not.
not burning houses, really, right? It's all
No.
forest fires.
Yeah,
I think
supposedly.
Gina's Reef has a good point. It's maybe more pine tar, depending on the type of trees that's
Okay,
burning.
right. I hear you, but listen. Here's the bottom line. I don't watch the news. I don't know the conspiracies. I'm not trying to scare anybody. But the bottom line is this has never happened before. We've never had Canadian fires cause Indiana to be a fog country, okay, or city, whatever, state, excuse me. So, number one, that's weird. Number two, it smells like plastic. And Ray, who lives in Canada, has never had the fire smell like plastic. Something's up, dudes. I'm telling you, something's up. I'm not going to dig into the conspiracies. I don't want to, but yeah. Ray, I wish it was weed and magic mushrooms because then maybe I wouldn't feel sick. I'd feel good, right? That's not it.
well, I don't know. Weed doesn't make everybody feel good.
That's true, but I think it would.
And too much of anything is not good for anybody.
Right. And having it in the air where you're not choosing to partake is not cool. So get your damn fires under control, dude. Come on, right? But no, okay.
I'll get back at you when it comes the other way.
Right. I think we're gonna have to end it soon, guys. I think we answered everything. I know we kind of jumped around everywhere, but I'm working on articles on all this stuff, and I do go back and rewatch Wine Wednesday to make notes to try to, talk about it next week and things that we didn't cover. But I think there's no answers, right? So we just kind of discuss what our experiences tell us and what's worked for us, and I think we did okay tonight. Is there anything else we do need to discuss? Oh, I did want
Basically, if we can give some idea of things for a new person to consider when they do get into a problem, it's still going to boil down to their own decision because they're the ones that have to decide, am I going to buy equipment or am I just going to do more water changes or whatever? But if we give them some basics to think about, nobody has all the right answers for all these situations.
absolutely.
And what works in one tank doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in another tank that's the same size, same equipment, same number of seahorses.
Different person.
Too many other variables in there.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you guys are breaking up a little bit, so I'm doing the 5-minute warning. Two things real quick. I'm going to let you talk, Cheryl, I promise. But I did want to say, totally agree, Ray, and that's why I took that hour-long how to set up a Seahorse tank and converted it into, I'm not going to tell you what to put in your tank. I'm going to tell you need this filtration, you need mechanical, you need biological. I'm not going to tell you have to have this sterile tank because if you want to, I can dive into that with you. Like I used to tell everybody, if you want seahorses, do seahorses and snails and maybe some gorgonians. Most people don't want to do that. They want to do more than that. If you're not trying to breed, It's a totally different. Yeah, I disagree with everything you say. Go ahead, Cheryl, because I got one more thing to say after you.
I was just going to say one thing that people need to watch out for is there's a lot of people that try to give advice and are trying to help people out, and I understand that. But they need to work with people that have been doing this a long time and know the ins and outs. And I'm going to give you a quick example. I got a call from the San Antonio Aquarium a while back from their fish keeper, and she wanted to know what to do. So I actually drove down there. All their seahorses had Popeye.
Mm.
Well, that can be caused by physical damage, or since all of them had it, it's a bacterial infection. But the real kicker to me, and it kind of ticked me off, was they didn't want to spend any money on antibiotics.
Yeah.
And I told them, well, then you can try moving them to a fresh tank, but I don't think they're going to make it.
And what happened?
They didn't make it.
Yeah, well, that's a terrible story, Cheryl. Thanks for having us on that terrible story. No, I'm just kidding. But
I have
no,
a good story. I actually had a seahorse.
Okay,
That's one of the ones
I'm
I
just saying,
successfully treated.
the hardest thing is trying to save seahorses through the internet.
prevention is better than
I
cure.
had a seahorse that had Popeye years ago. That reminds me. I almost forgot about that. And it was fine in about 3 days. And got
Yeah.
home.
If it was
It
physical damage
was a
or not a
happy
bad
day.
injury, they actually can recover pretty quickly from it. But other times it just gets worse.
Sure. Well, on that note, I'm coughing up the Canadian.
On that note, everybody, raise seahorses. Be positive. Even if you aren't perfect, you will learn.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I want Gina's read-eye, Gina. But I would say, I think we dove into sumps a little bit tonight. As I talked about, we do need to, Ray, when I finally get these articles ready and going, I'm going to send them to you for editing so you can, tell me if I made it blunt enough where, people can still make their own choices. Because I think that's the problem. Sometimes we dive so deep into, you got to do it this way if you want to succeed, but it's not true because people are succeeding doing other things. However, if you risk those other things, you're going to end up with problems and end up with us, back with us. And then you're going to hear us say, well, you should. Anyways, all right, down that rabbit hole, right? But I just want to be here for anybody who wants to keep seahorses, and you can do it. Doesn't have to be hard. Sometimes we have nights like tonight where we discuss all the bad stuff, but there's tons of good stuff. Oh, yeah, hang on. That's what I wanted to do really quick.
Uh-oh.
You got no, this is a good thing. If I can do it quick enough before my power goes out, because apparently it's going to. And what do you guys do with your seahorse tanks when the power goes out? Well, I'm trying to
Generators.
Turn on the generator.
Well, if you don't have a generator, though,
Throw in air lines, battery powered bubblers. Use ice packs to keep them cool if it's hot.
Worst comes to worst, just take a plastic jug, dip it in the tank, lift it up, and pour it back into the tank.
Yeah.
Just keep on doing
Yeah.
that. for a while, and
It'll
that-
oxygenate it.
yeah, that before I knew anything about generators or about well, I always cared about temperature. But the one time my power went out and I called the power company, and you guys know me, or maybe you don't, but I was total. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I don't care what's going on out there in the world. My seahorses will die if you don't get the power back on. And they were like, I'm sorry. There's like this huge accident and, screw you. Anyways, point being, I better figure it out for myself. And then I, in the future, got better prepared. But that day, I had nothing. And so literally, I was taking my cup and every 10 minutes, scooping water, pouring it back in, scooping water, pouring it back in. Gina's Reef said, battery-powered airstone or hydrogen peroxide. Amen, sister. I know that stuff now, but that day I knew nothing, and all I knew is I had to get oxygen into that tank, period, and that surface agitated.
The peroxide, though, can be problematic for someone that doesn't know how much to
What do you
Yeah.
mean? Oh,
use.
peroxide, sure. Dosing peroxide, you need to be careful. But I mean,
You know, when I started a Seahorse tank, it was my second Seahorse tank. So this is back in 2007. This is before power outages became a thing where I live.
mhm.
It was actually on my shopping list for the tank, for setting up a tank for seahorses. I got myself a little gas, two-stroke gas powered generator just for running the seahorse tank if something happened.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it didn't cost a whole lot. You know, it wasn't designed to run my whole house. It was just designed to run the fish tank.
Yep. Well,
And
my gas figured out peroxide, and I also got the battery powered Airstone. It's literally a pump that's battery
Yeah.
powered. Hey, works because
fishermen use it for bait. So if you don't find it on, you know, they sell them on Amazon, but you can also go to like a sporting goods
yep.
store where they sell fishing equipment
And
and buy them.
you guys heard me complaining about this Canada fire, Ray. No, I'm just teasing. But the Canada fires, but really I'm spoiled. Indiana has crap weather, but I don't lose my power much. I
Mhm.
don't have the problems that like Holly has. I can't even, and Cheryl has. Can't even imagine. So I'm grateful that, I don't have those problems, but it's always good to be prepared,
Well,
even in Indiana. Go
yeah.
ahead.
I'm easy. I'm on a grid with two military installations. I'm on the same grid. They
Yep.
can't let the power go down there. So anytime it goes out for like 30 seconds, I'm on the phone going, and you can hear him, it's Cheryl again.
Oh no. Okay, guys, real quick, just to put a positive spin on this, and I say positive spin, but I want to give a warning here. This is my boring tank where I'm trying to breed seahorses, so there's no pretty stuff. It's literally just a boring tank, and this is mid water change. I had literally cleaned my rocks, and they literally you'll notice if you see my tank. Usually, I have this like sculpture type deal in the middle of the tank of rock that I aquascape. And in this video, it's all knocked down because I was cleaning the tank. So the tank looks terrible. But the point being, look how big they're getting. I mean, look at these guys. I looked at them and I was like, holy crap, they're really, I mean,
Yeah.
tail out, they're half the size of the tank. And the
Yeah.
next one, I think, let's make sure I'm not showing you something weird. I mean, they're really getting big.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They look good.
I mean, I know
Exactly.
and the tank looks like shit. Like I cleaned all that up, guys. But I'm just saying that's one of the reasons that you want more water volume. Not just, oh shoot, I stopped sharing. Not just because, you know, they're spouting out particles from their gills and they poop a lot and they eat a lot and all that good stuff and need major filtration, but because they get big.
They
So
get
have
big.
you
They
explained
like
to
a
him?
lot of space. When Scrappy Doo passed, I measured him. He's a little over 8 inches.
Yeah.
Seahorse.
Yeah, see?
By the
And
way,
the
have
guy
you
I just showed
explained?
you is nothing compared to like my purple seahorse, my first seahorse. He got to about 12 inches. Those guys are not even 6.
Mhm.
So we're talking double that in a seahorse.
Okay,
Mhm.
Kelly, you need to get it together and get somebody that knows AC and fans and everything else. They can come out in the middle of the night in a blizzard to make sure you have power.
There you go. Okay, I'll do that. But hey, side note, we didn't get into the discussion, and I am going to have to end it. Unfortunately, I don't think Ray really wanted to talk about it, anyways. But we did have a case too. We talked a few weeks ago about Ray getting a new dog, and totally left field, I know. But The new dog. Let me actually back up and talk about my own experience. My son,
Oh,
my son got a dog, and the dog was raised on a farm, but I don't think it was exactly the nicest farm because the dog had some odd uh, behaviors when we got it. Not me, my son. But anyways, the dog liked to eat its own poo and liked to eat grass and stuff like that. Ray's dog is not having any of those problems. But what I wanted to know from anybody in the comment section is when you get a dog that may have been raised in not so great circumstances, any tips for how to get the dog to bond with you or help the dog along in the process? Like if they've had to go, travel a long ways to get to you, or if they were in a bad circumstance before you got them. Has anybody had that experience?
I,
And
I,
what tips do you have?
I, when I was working for the police department, one of my primary functions was working with some of the dogs on the streets and stuff.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I used to do, they were always terrified. And the hardest part was catching them. Once you could get to them and catch them and get them into a kennel where they were safe. And you could watch them because they loved having the bigger kennels and the runs and stuff. And it was a gradual process to get them to trust you. And the only reason that they would trust you at all was because basically you were giving them food.
You know what's interesting though? You say that, and I 100% believe you, but this just shows why maybe I have trouble with spoiled seahorses. Because when I think of a dog I've never kenneled a dog or cat. I don't like them. I know you guys. Everybody's gonna beat me up now. Everybody's gonna comment on the video and be like, "You idiot! You have to put your dog in a crate or whatever." I don't like them. I
But
can't
the
stand it.
thing is, once you get the dog to trust you,
Yeah.
and I've worked with a number of different dogs with all kinds of different issues. And once they get to trust you, it's a whole different world because then they come, they greet you, they bark at you. I remember one that every time it would see me, all it would do is bark, bark, bark until I went over and petted it.
Mm,
And you have to love them to be able to do it. It's not something for most people to go in and do because it really can be heartbreaking. But when you find the dog, you get the dog to come back to you, you get the dog to be like a normal dog, and then you find a good home for them. It's really rewarding.
yeah. Well, a Facebook user said lots of patience. They will have to build trust. My boy came from an abusive farm. He would peel over himself every time I talked to him for a long time. And I want to be clear, that's not Ray's circumstance. I was talking about my son's. Right? That's I'm just
Mhm.
saying I always throw my 2 cents and my experiences in, guys. So I want to make clear I was talking about my experience and my son's. But yeah, I mean, it's so hard because I know that will end up like your bestest friend, but
Mhm.
watching them be scared and it's so rough. Um, and I'm curious, Facebook user, you said you don't create more treats. Gotcha. And let me see. Baby steps, take it slow, let them come to you. Don't try to force.
I need to find out why they're scratching like crazy around their head, their ears, their neck, under the chin, and they've already had their neck guard and advantage multi, which is supposed to kill off
Oh,
everything. You can't find anything in there, but she's just continually scratching like that all the
what about
time.
Probably
And I
habit.
had,
She's used to
pardon?
living in that condition, so it's probably a habit she formed that she's going to have to learn to get over. Because if she was living in poor conditions where she was always itching, it may have become a nervous habit
yeah, but
developed.
what about skin condition too? Like,
Well, see, my last dog had the problem, but nowhere's near what this one has. And
Does it run in the
it was on
feces?
revolution all the time, so it should never have had that problem. But the vets said, well, it's probably an allergy to something. So we put it on allergy pills, left it on allergy pills for a year, never made any
Yeah.
difference. So I stopped allergy pills, and he just put up with it.
But Ray,
So,
is it something that runs with the species?
no,
Hmm.
it's a Maltese.
Yeah. You see some of these puppy mills and stuff like that, and you see the condition they keep these dogs in. It'll tear you up if you care about animals.
Well, but I mean, amazing for people that try to rescue them, and that's what I'm saying. I know I'm gonna hit Lucy up later this week to talk to her because she does, and just finding out tips and tricks to make the dog more comfortable, right? Because
Yeah, she does that a lot. She works with I watch her all the time on Facebook, the different dogs she's working with and conditioning for their new homes. And she deals with a lot of issues that dogs have and is able to overcome them in a family environment, which is cool
right,
because she has her own pets and kids in
right.
the house and has to overcome a lot of stuff with these dogs and does a great job. So I would definitely talk to her.
Man, I know how she does with seahorses, so I trust her already. But she's amazing.
Mhm.
But I remember Aries, the dog that I was telling the story about, had a skin condition, right? And it took a minute for them to figure out the skin condition. And and they ended up with a cream that ended up working. I don't know. I'm throwing darts again, but I just,
Mhm.
for I can't. I mean, really, a dog could continue to scratch as a nervous habit? I'm just asking.
I think it could be if they were doing, if it's, not a puppy, if it's a little bit older dog and it got used to that its whole life, if you don't find anything else, I would say, yeah, does it have a flea issue? Does it have, a skin issue? But if you don't find anything like that going on, I would say it could be, and like birds that pull feathers.
Yeah. I mean,
I
I
mean, I
guess.
think
Or even nerves. Like
nerves, like I
nerves do.
said, yeah, that's
Hmm. Well, anyway,
Well, the way my nerves are, I should be scratching to beat
right.
hell.
mhm,
Don't mind me over here. No, I'm just kidding. But I would say anybody who watches this later, again, I check comments. I'm gonna hook Ray up with Lucy. And again, we're not
I'll look
talking about his
for
new dog. I was talking about Aries having all the problems. But if anybody has any tips for someone with a dog that's having problems, we would love to hear them. And definitely reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with Ray, or we'll talk about it next week. Either way. But
I'm sending it to you right
Name and
now.
picture comes up on
wait,
Facebook.
what'd you say,
I'm
Ray?
sending it to you right
You
now,
do it.
Ray. There it is. I put a link to her Facebook page for you in our private
Well,
comments.
Ray, when we're done, I'll do a message where you can talk to her directly.
Mhm.
Easy.
Yeah. But if anybody wants to get in touch with me, they can do that. Just search Ray Ford, and when there'll be a picture of me sitting there beside my name, there's other Ray Fords, but it's easy enough to pick off the one, and then they can message me.
Just don't try to friend him. He doesn't accept friends. Just message. I'm serious, you guys. He's
I
not
had to
my
get rid
friend.
of friends. It was just too
I
much.
know.
When you're into my age and you get all these people, it's bad enough. I got so many family connections, but so I try to limit it to the family connections. But on Messenger, I the list on Messenger is
We're
just
partying.
ungodly.
And I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing because I totally get it. I'm just teasing. I just wanted to warn you guys. You try to friend him and he says, no,
Ray,
understand. He's not even my friend.
I think you need to get your new dog pregnant, and then you can have puppies to
Oh
play
no, Ray
with.
doesn't need no, no. Ray needs his buddy. And yeah. So any suggestions, reach out to Ray, reach out to any of us. We're here for Ray. And we can't wait to see. Oh my gosh, I'm so terrible. What's the name again?
Sorry,
What's her name again?
Who?
Jenna.
Dana?
Jenna.
Okay.
And my Facebook page, I think people can access it without
They
being
can.
friends. And there's lots of information on there what I've been going through this week so far.
So if you're a dog lover and you have some tips and tricks, go check out Ray Ford. Look for Ray's picture. You've seen him every week. And, just look at the page, see what he's been going through, and message him or any of us because we're all wanting to help. So for tonight, you guys, I am gonna have to end it. We had a big dog discussion before we got started, but now I got to work at 5 a.m.
No, we were talking about little dogs.
What?
We were talking
This
we
one's
were talking about little dogs, not big dogs.
8 pounds 7 ounces. Now, on the 19th of May, when it was still in Missouri, when the rescue group there took it in, it was 12 pounds
Oof.
in. So it's had this eating problem ever since. It wasn't just as it got to
Of
me.
course, right. No, we know you want nothing more than to love this dog. It's just getting over the hurdles of the new dog. I mean,
It'll take some time. And I'm sure it's frightened, strange place, completely different environment, strange people everywhere, and then being left in poor conditions prior to that where it wasn't getting what it needed. It's gonna be frightening for a little while, but it should come
one more
around
thing, I
really
hope it's
well.
okay if I mention this, but it's just because I've had this experience myself before. I think that Ray, before we went live, one of the things you mentioned is that you noticed that the dog responds very well to women, to younger people, but to yourself and maybe an older neighbor, something about it maybe gives an indication that it had a bad experience with an older male in the past, right?
That's what I'm
That's
thinking
what I'm
now.
thinking too. So
Now, she came to you though while we were on here live. I noticed a little
yeah,
bit
you're
ago.
fine.
Yeah, but when I put my hand down to reach out to her, she runs away.
And I noticed when I said her name, she snubbed me. So she don't like me either. But no, I get it. But I mean, I'm glad to see her on your lap.
Yeah,
And
did she come to you and jump up there, or you picked her up?
The only time she comes to me is if I sit down in my lazy boy chair. She will come and want up. She can't jump up like Skylar
right.
could, but I found now it's hard for me to bend over and pick her up to, even at that light weight. So what I do is I get her to put her front feet up on the seat part, and then I tilt the rest of it up, and the foot pad comes up and lifts her up.
That's the way to do it.
So
It's gonna just take some
that's the only
time.
time she comes to me. Any other time, she doesn't want anything to do with me because she thinks I'm going to make her go up or downstairs or go outside.
Right.
Anyhow, we're keeping you up. So
No,
we gotta
no,
let you
I'm
get
sorry.
off.
I was responding. Brandy said I didn't see her name. She was Facebook user. Sorry, Brandy. And yeah, no, I care, Ray. I do. So, but we don't have
Yep.
anybody giving us any great educational tips right now. So I am gonna have to go because I do have to work in the morning, guys. But this is important to me, just like seahorses are. So reach out, please. And I hope that by next week she's up here in the stream and chilling with us, Ray. That's what I'm hoping. But for tonight, you guys, let's do say wine Wednesday. See, let's say cheers and happy wine Wednesday,
Cheers.
and we will see you next week.